Hi, beautiful soul. So I received an email. There's a person, I forgot where from. They said they do random meditations here and there on YouTube, and they are just getting started with the work, but they don't know where to start, what to do outside of random YouTube meditations. And I think when you do, this is just my opinion, I think it is not productive to get impressed with the word spirituality or this work, and then you just jump on random meditations without understanding why you're doing this. What are you trying to achieve? What does it look like? What are the markers? How would you know that what you're doing is the right thing to do for you? And this is where I always talk about the think box and the play box. First, you need to understand why you're doing this. What brought you here? And what does it mean to start this work? Then you get into this word called surrender. Then you might run into David Hawking's book called Letting Go, which is surrender. Then you might run into the concept of detachment, which is a segment of surrender. Then you might run into being awareness, becoming an observer, which are all part of surrender. Because surrender is you first understanding that you're not your body, you're an eternal divine being. Then you identifying your core beliefs. There's a lot of work to be done to overcome your animalistic side, lust, gluttony, and then everything related to ego. Now, I have a problem with Alan Watts saying that ego doesn't exist. I think ego definitely exists. It is a core programming of this experiment of you being a human on earth. And the job of the ego is predictability, survivability, keeping you in the known, keeping you in the matrix, keeping you involved in the stories, making you feel like you're part of the movie. You're not the observer of the movie. You're not the awareness looking at the movie. You're not the awareness watching the unfoldment of life, but you're actually this body and you are this guy. You're not playing a character. You are this guy, keeping you very contracted. But when you start to do this work, you have to realize that you're simply an observer watching life unfold. And it's an illusion that you think you have any control. You don't. You don't have control on how life unfolds. You have control on raising and lowering your vibrations. But how life will unfold through those vibrations, how life will unfold through you, is not in your control. You know? That's why there are people that want to heal, and they're doing meditations to heal. They'll go to the doctor to heal. They'll even do surgeries and they will not heal. Why? You only have control over your state of being. Everything else is an illusion if you think that you have any control outside of that. Hold on, let me... I want to get out of the sun. Okay, this is better. So, back to the question. What do I do? Well, first of all, try to dissociate yourself from any emotion that doesn't feel good. You know, people, you can call it enlightened people, awakened people, people that have realized, the people that have popped, whatever the terminology you want to use. Once they realize that in this reality, you have chosen different versions of all these people that you interact with in this world. But those are you creating those versions of people. And there's actually nobody here. It's just you. And everyone else is just an illusory reflection to keep the drama going, to entertain you, so you can have experiences of life with other people and not be completely lonely. But awakened people initially do feel very lonely with this realization that it's just you and God, it's just you and source energy playing in this entire universe, and no one else is out here. But when you, from your core, understand that, believe it, when you embody that understanding, something magical happens. You no longer are able to judge people. Now, ego can never really die. Yeah, there's a phase of ego death. But there's always going to be something. You might wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Old personality, ego might creep back in. And you might end up judging people. But you'll catch yourself so quickly. But for the most part, you won't be able to judge people. There will be no resentment. There will be no such thing as forgiving anyone, because there's no one to forgive. And what that does is takes your dominant vibration from first density or first dimension to second density, second dimension, third density, third dimension. And all of these are related. Energy centers, dimensions, densities. Raw, in the law of one, calls it densities, right? A lot of people go through, they call them dimensions. You can call them different energy centers because they're all related. And once you overcome this understanding, these concepts, these beliefs, when you let go of the book of law that you have created, in the book of 4 agreements, 5th agreement, and the mastery of love, these 3 books go in very detail about the book of law that you have created. So since you were a child, you have made all these agreements. What is an agreement? A belief that you have adopted, a belief that you have made your own, right? You're ugly, you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, and you have to sacrifice to get things. You know, life is suffering, life is tough, life is not fair, all that shenanigans. And if you believe those, they have now become your book of law, and you judge yourself based on that. Initially, when you're a child, people will judge you. Once you grow up and you get domesticated, the programming can be so powerful that you'll start to reward and punish yourself. You'll judge yourself. You'll victimize your own self based on the book of law that you have adopted. Once you remove that, once you throw away that book of law, once you throw away all the beliefs, once you throw away this illusion, your energy will start to move up. Your vibration will start to move up, because you were naturally a very high vibrational being, but because you have contracted and you have pushed all of your high frequency down into the animal self so you can experience life as a human, and the whole game is to overcome that animal self so that your frequency comes back up and you evolve back, right? That's how you graduate. That's how you graduate this experiment of Earth, so you can move on and do other things that higher beings do. So when you understand that you're none of those things that you have believed and they were all illusions, and you drop them and you get rid of them, your energy starts to move up. It'll go up to your heart. Now, if you look at the sign of heart, it's two triangles, right? One facing up, one facing down. And it has the ability to ascend you, and it also has the ability to root you, ground you, so it can give you balance. So you can live a beautiful, enlightened life on earth, and you can have one foot on earth, and you can also have one foot behind the veil. And you can have the mystical experiences, and you can heal, and you can manifest very, very quickly. There are people that are so good, they'll just materialize things in their hands instantly. Masters of the Far East talks about this. Yogananda's autobiography talks about this, if you need examples. I've seen someone do this right in front of me once. That was nuts. So you start to have a very good balance, because you're still playing this role of being human, and you're going to be here for a little while. And when you get into this beautiful balanced of fourth density of your fourth energy center, where your heart stays open, and there's just this infinite love that exudes out of you, people notice that. You will illuminate rooms when you walk in. People will just see the beauty in you. When they're near you, they feel good. Them walking by you, giving you a hug, will heal them. It's magical what you can do. And now you can get to a place where you can actively participate in an experiment. So now you can have fun. So having these understandings, studying the people, masters, right? And then creating tribes, meeting people that are on the journey. They might be ahead of you, but they're hoping to one day be masters, right? I'm hoping to one day be a master. Now we will be all. It might take a long time. It might not take a long time, but there's nothing else to do other than to evolve, right? And because we're your eternal divine being, we have all the time in the world to do this. So then you say, okay, I need to push the energy up. I want to do some karmic cleansing. I want to do, I want to cleanse my field. I want to expand my field. I want my dominant frequency and energy to be high. And when you do that, your senses enhance. Imagine being able to see 20% more. Your senses will, imagine you being able to touch and feel. Your sensations will move up 20%. Your telomeres, these little shoestrings at the end of your DNA, will elongate, which means you literally reverse an age. You'll look younger. Your skin will look better. You will lighten up. Bashar says if you want to be enlightened, you need to lighten up. Don't take anything personal. Don't make any assumptions. Unless you want to manifest something specific, you can fine-tune specific assumptions about your future self, and you'll be able to then realize that manifestation, because that's the whole experiment of us being here on earth, right? Anyways, so you get to understand what is possible, what people have been able to achieve, why, and then once you understand the different densities, dimensions, centers, and then you can get into the understanding of what harmony looks like, what homeostasis looks like in your field, in your centers, in your body. It changes your nervous system. It changes how you experience life, literally. And then you get into different spiritual practices. And this particular person mentioned Dr. Joe, but you have to remember, everybody teaches spirituality very differently. And Dr. Joe's teachings are very limited, believe it or not, because he only wants to speak from science, and that's beautiful. I love him. I've done a lot of retreats with him. I've studied all his books. I've read, listened to all his podcasts, because there's so much he teaches, but only from a lens of science. And then there's a whole other aspect of what is possible, And a couple other things that Masters of the Far East talks about that Dr. Joe never touches on, because it'll sound too woo-woo, and he just stays away from that. And there's things Yogananda mentions that he never touches on. There's things that Michael Singer talks about, and Greg Braden talks about, and Bruce Lipton talks about, that Dr. Joe never talks about. So it's the same thing with R.J. Spina, same thing with the Book of Laws, the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, which Dr. Joe does not talk about, as well as David Hawkins. So it's very important to be able to study different people, so you can then figure out who do you really want to follow temporarily, and Sadhguru too, and then experiment with some of their spiritual practices to understand what works for you. So I studied all these people that I mentioned. I practiced all of these people's teachings, and I created what works for me. Now, if I talk about what works for me, is going to be very different than any one of these particular people, because I have created a very specific cocktail of spiritual practices that I do. For me, that works. So you have to study a couple different people, try and figure out what works for you, and then you stick to it. Master a specific thing. For example, I mastered the breath. I can just go into instant gamma. Less than 10 seconds, I'm just gone. Instant gamma, I'm out of there. When I come back, I don't even know who I am. I go completely behind the veil. I mastered it. I needed to master something. Then that changed how I meditate. Suddenly I'm having communications with entities. They wake me up at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, every single morning, showing me things, revealing things to me. The universe has secrets to tell you. And the universe, I don't know why the universe, mostly wants to share those secrets with you at that time of the morning. But that's why they wake me up every morning. Then I had mystical experiences. All of them were between 3 and 5. Yeah. And then the experiences I have during the meditations, where I go to astral and I can see people in the astral, I can see the beings during meditations, that's quite a bit different than mystical experiences, because mystical experiences, I'm actually living a different life. I have a different family, I'm living in a different place, and I go there. And then you start having these experiences, and you start to explore existence outside of just being a mere human and stuck in animalistic self. And this is the stage where you really need to get a few people that are on this work as seriously as you are, so you can constantly talk about them, because there's a lot to discuss, a lot to break down. There's a lot of confusions. You start to feel very lonely. You lose people, friends, careers. You will lose a lot, because the old personality is just dying away and creating room for the new version of you, because of your new frequency, new vibration, new field energy, new coherence or incoherence in your field. And that has a very profound impact on your holographic life. Your reality, it has a very direct impact on your reality. So I talked about and touched on a lot of things here, from different views, different people, different aspects, different dimensions. And the person that sent me an email asked me some follow-up questions, so I can create a follow-up that will specifically then answer your questions, because you asked me a very broad question, right? It was a very loaded question. So let's zero in on exactly in what you want to know after you hear me give you this information, and we'll dig deeper into it. So I hope this helps.